Hey guys, welcome back to another Sunday night show. I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet, straight to the point, and hopefully we find some trades that make us some money this week. So really quickly, I wanna talk a little bit about the S&P 500, what's going on here. So I have the S&P 500 chart. As you guys saw, we had a massive rally from the 4,200 range, and I had also recommended at that time the bounce range for this, a very key level of support was right around 4170 to 4200. So I have the S&P futures up. We got a nice bounce from there, but like resistance, if you guys take a look, is right around 45. Like if you go back a month, around February, probably around 4550 to 4600. And we kind of had a drop here, as you guys noticed. A lot of this was good news. Maybe the economy was robust, things like that. Also, there was some peace talks potentially from Russia-Ukraine war, and a little bit of let up in oil prices. So we had a huge rally here, and then some give back. I actually started a short position right around 45.68, and I bought another short position around 46.20, and I've taken both positions off, not for any other reason. Technically, I don't really know which way it could go. The market could take another leg up higher from here. I personally think there is some resistance in this range, which is why I'm not necessarily buying. The reason I honestly did not short, to be perfectly blunt with you guys, is right now it is April 4th. We have the start of the month, essentially a lot of the buying that happens. We saw a little bit of that on Friday. Honestly, it was probably a good time to add my short position back on, but because the first day of the month is usually a pretty strong rally. We're gonna see how the second day plays out on Monday. Depending on that, I might decide to short into this resistance area right here, with the intention of getting out if it breaches 4650. Anyway, just wanted to talk about the S&P. The tape is actually still relatively strong because we only gave back a little bit, considering how strong the rally was from 4200. Next thing I want to talk about are some stocks from last week that I still think are tradable. You guys recall I mentioned AMC last week. Seemed like it was gearing up for a bounce, and bounce it did. It went from like $20. You could have at one point sold it at like 29 and had that squeezy type action. Let's pay attention to this week, you guys, because this action, usually a squeeze is followed out by a bleed out and potentially another squeeze. So with AMC stock, maybe the action is not dead at these levels. Do I expect it to shoot back up to 60 before? As before, maybe not, but this is what I'm watching right now. Outside of this, I want to mention two other names. Plug did not really have the bounce that I was expecting. I mentioned it last week. It seemed like it was gearing up for a rally. It more or less consolidated last week, but sometimes it can be followed up by a future rally. I think with stocks like Plug and Neo, they're gonna be determined on the performance on a stock like Tesla. So let's watch how Tesla performs. Tesla's tape had a strong bounce from 800, kind of consolidating here again, just the way Plug was. And we can probably see what's gonna happen, over the course of this week. Things might change. Anyway, the next thing I kind of want to quickly mention is the ticker XPEV. It's had quite a bit of a bounce. It had earnings last week, but it had bounced from a key level, and the earnings honestly didn't cause too much selling, despite the fact from March 15th to now, we had almost it doubling in value, where it was like, you could have bought it at like $18 a share around then and sold it at 30. So I want to continue to watch the tape here. MU seems like it was consolidating after earnings. I still think there's a lot of action to be had in MU, and LULU seems to have had a huge bounce from earnings, followed by a consolidation, which we can see a further bounce from. So I kind of want to keep these tickers still in the back of your mind, because LULU has a long way to run to make a comeback to where its all-time highs are. So I want you guys still to pay attention to LULU this upcoming week. A few other things that seem like they might be ready to bounce. Let's look at Facebook right now, or Meta platforms, however you want to call it. Meta had a huge sell-off. You guys remember, I wasn't really buying it because I don't necessarily like to buy things before the move too much. This is one of the few names that I bought in small size just because it is Facebook and you are getting it at a hefty discount. But I don't like playing the waiting game so much anymore. You know, buying the dips oftentimes leads to a waiting game that I don't necessarily like playing all the time, because then you're stuck capital waiting for the trade to play out. So if I do play waiting games, I tend to do it in small size, even if the valuations look good. So Facebook, this is what we see right here. It had a bounce followed by the consolidation. Once again, we're gonna see right now where the market wants to go. Like I said, the overall market S&P has some resistance. If the S&P can break out, I think Facebook can go higher. I think Facebook can actually go higher without the S&P though. So we'll see here, but usually not right away, because there are some strong correlations between the actual money flow. Amazon. So Amazon has had a rally followed by a give back. We're gonna see again, it's actually a very bullish symbol to have this massive run up, have a little bit of a sell off, and then potentially run a bit higher from here. Honestly, this is determined by the fate of the overall market, as always. But lastly, I wanna talk about Netflix. Netflix has had a huge sell off. It had a nice bounce, and once again, we're consolidating. So it's kind of the same story, but you can pick up some of these FAANG names at pretty nice discounts. I want you guys still to pay attention to Netflix. If it tries to break above 400, you guys saw last time it broke above 400 after the sell-off, it just shot up. It's pretty close to trying to make an attempt to breach the 400. I don't know if I'm necessarily gonna be trading it too much till it gets there, but it could easily get there on like a first of the month kind of move. That might happen just from excess money flow, okay? So this is essentially what I'm watching, and I brought up the charts a little bit just because earnings calendar this week there's nothing too exciting. We're gonna jump all the way to Wednesday, where TLRY is the big trade of the week. I think you guys recall last week I said TLRY is probably something you guys might wanna watch, but it has kind of the same pattern that I keep discussing. A break higher, followed by a sell-off down to 748. But we have a major catalyst coming up. We have earnings. We can see if earnings is gonna lift this stock up higher. I hope it does go higher. I'm just saying I'm bag holding beyond anything in this name. There are two names I'm bag holding big time. One name I'm not gonna mention because I mention it every video, and then I have to go to black and white to even talk about that. I'm not gonna do it. You guys know what it is. Anyway, next name on Wednesday, I'm watching IRNT, which is a ticker symbol IRNT, and you can kind of view the chart here. Why bring up IRNT? Look at this miserable freaking bleed out, followed by another bleed out, followed by another bleed out. Well, look at these freaking spikes too. And this happens a lot during earnings season, and it can sometimes make a very great trade. Not something you want to be bag holding, but it can sometimes make a great trade. And that's why I'm watching it. Sometimes it can have that huge spike action that we want right in earnings season. This is on Wednesday, by the way, and I think this might be a great trade for this upcoming week. Other than that, I see no other major earnings trades. I would also mention Bitcoin is having a good trade, but I find I lose my audience right whenever I talk about Bitcoin. So I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin. That's for another time, another place. And that's more or less it for me, you guys. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and hopefully we can make some money together this upcoming week. That's all I have. See you next week. Bye. I just want the money, 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 money.